Okay.
So no, I am not a win at all costs, and I'm not a win or lose. I'm a win-win. So to me, a successful outcome of any negotiation is mutually beneficial, which is why the negotiation is the last thing, not the first.
Hello and welcome to Sales Gambit. I am your host Ashish, CEO of Convin, a conversation intelligence platform for the sales teams. In today's episode, we'll discuss how effective negotiation can lead to closing of more deals. And for that purpose, we have Sean Sheppard with us, who is CEO of U.plus and co-founder of GrowthX and GrowthX Academy with 3 successful exits. He was also named the number 2 online sales influencer and contributor at the Huffington Post. Hey Sean, we're very happy to have you with us today. Welcome to Sales Gambit.
Glad to be here, Ashish. Thanks for having me.
Great. So Sean, before we jump into today's topic, we would really love to know about how did you start your journey and what are you working on currently? How are you kind of helping the ecosystem today?
I don't know how far you want to go back on the journey bit, but I've always been fascinated with technology and the promise that technology brings to make the world a better place. Although I am not a technologist in the purest sense of the word. I like to make the joke that I can't even spell HTML. But what I found out is that I was pretty good at translating. I just got involved. I've just been an entrepreneur my entire life. I've always brought, my value has always been in the sales and marketing side of business.
Okay.
Not the, and then the support, coaching, mentorship, and leadership of other people in the organization that are tied to revenue, which I think is the best place to be because it's the easiest thing to measure. That scares a lot of people. And if it scares you, then it's probably not a world you should live in. And that's okay. It's not for everyone. But for me, it's always been about how to effectively understand what people want and how to get them what they want through my solutions and offerings. I've started 5 companies. I've had 3 exits. I launched 3 venture funds. I've made close to 150 startup investments. I started a school that trains people in professional selling as well as growth marketing and UX design thinking and data science. When I decided I wasn't going to raise another venture fund, because every time you do, it's like a 5 to 10 year marriage. I saw the opportunity in corporate innovation. Corporates were struggling. Old economy businesses were struggling to get into the new economy, and they needed a similar kind of help and thinking that 30 years of doing this have brought. And so I acquired half of U.plus, which is a corporate venture builder that was based in Europe, really strong in Europe and the Middle East, a global presence, but still quite small in the U.S. And I saw an opportunity to grow it in the Americas. And so I've been at that now for the last 2 years, and we've grown 500% this year alone because digital is the number one priority. There's no accounting for the power of market timing as a key factor to success. So now I help big companies take new ideas to market.
Makes sense. So I can say that U.plus is more like an extended team to these companies and, which help them to do the execution part of the entire thing, strategy and execution and planning. Right?
That's right. We like to think of ourselves as non-dilutive co-founders in their startup efforts. We bring the full teams. We do the product development. We do the design thinking. We do we do all the tech dev, we do all the commercialization, all the sales, and all the marketing to stand it up. And all the initial research to identify key problem spaces, what opportunities exist, and how you might solve them for your existing customers as well as new markets that you're trying to enter.
Yeah. No, true. That's great. So now that you have given me the context on what you have been working on, right? Dealing with these top 2,000 companies, negotiation would become a very important or like a must-to-have skill at your level, right? Because you're constantly trying to help them understand what is beneficial for them and how certain things needs to be executed or planned or something like that. So if we go into the topic a little bit more, would love to understand your perspective. What do you think of a successful business negotiation? Does a successful business negotiation means winning at all costs? Or what should be the expectation when a salesperson thinks about a successful business negotiation in general?
So I began with the fundamental premise that this life, personal, professional, or otherwise, is a relational life. So don't behave transactionally ever.
Okay.
Don't compromise your integrity or your customer's integrity just to get the deal, because it won't serve either of you in the long run. So no, I am not a win at all costs, and I'm not a win or lose. I'm a win-win. So to me, a successful outcome of any negotiation is a mutually beneficial result for all parties. So I get what I want, you get what you want. If you have something that has real value and there's a fair exchange to be had, there's a way to find the common ground to get there. I'll turn people onto probably the best negotiation book I've ever read is Chris Voss, the former FBI head of FBI hostage negotiations internationally, wrote a book called Never Split the Difference. And I couldn't agree more with his approach. Although it might sound a little weird and a little transactional, but every relationship and every interaction, every social interaction is some sort of negotiation. And if you approach it that way, without being cynical about it, the biggest muscle that we all need to build is the empathy muscle.
Got it.
So you've got to demonstrate through your behaviors, not just your intent, that you seek to understand them before being understood. And the goal is to really walk a mile in their shoes and truly empathize with them and understand where they are coming from. Because that's the best way to not just find a mutually beneficial outcome, but also to solution for your client the right way. And you have to be willing to walk away if it's not a fit. If they are behaving transactionally and they're asking for things that are unreasonable and you can't meet those expectations or exceed them, it's not going to end well. And I don't just mean in the form of a clawback on a commission, but in my world, it's every time you behave transactionally and it comes back to you in a negative way, it takes a little bit of your soul. And whether you admit it or know it or not, that's there, and it's not a good situation to be in. So you're trying to build long-term relationships. You're trying to help people get what they want. You're trying to create a mutually beneficial outcome for you and them. So every negotiation needs to be strategic in that way. And I understand that earlier stage companies that have less leverage and less power and less brand and less credibility have to concede more early to win more later. And that's a thing, and that should be a thing. But your goal should always be to not just acquire a customer, but to keep them and to grow them. Because every time you lose a customer, you need to get two just to get back to where you were.
True. Very interesting.
Especially in SaaS, right? If you're in the SaaS business or in recurring revenue models, 70% of the future growth of every unicorn has come from existing customers.
Correct.
More depth, more workflow, more value, more usage, more stickiness. And that only comes when you meet or exceed their expectations.
True. Makes sense. But this is definitely easier said than being done, right, Sean? I think you would agree already on this, is that it takes a lot to learn that. And one of the specific thing that I really want to understand from you is how important it is to have all the facts and figures uncovered before, saying that, hey, we want to get into a negotiation. How important is that to have everything available with full transparency?
It's huge. I coach my people and I tell the world, don't talk about price until you absolutely fully understand the problem and the proposed solution. And there's two ways you're going to get that, right? Okay. You're going to get some of it on your own through doing your cursory research, which has never been easier than it is today to understand who your customer is, what their profile is, what business they're in, how they make money, what drives their behavior, how your individual customers and prospects are measured in their job or role, and how you impact that in a positive way, how to identify the value metrics that are attached to your value proposition, because if it can't measure it, it's not real. And then to validate, so that's the first part. So all of that is what I call essentially creating a value hypothesis.
Okay.
It says that based on what I think I understand about you, your business, your life, your world, your work, I think I can help you in these ways. And the next step is for me to validate that or iterate on it based on what I learned from you. So those are the two places where you get all of that information. You can get some of it on your own to establish that initial value hypothesis. And then the next job is to validate that to determine whether or not it's a fit. And it's worth your time and theirs to continue this conversation. And you get that through the live interactions and the asynchronous communication between the different people that are involved in the process. In the enterprise sale, you got 6, 7, 8 people in the average influencing the average decision.
Right.
So you have to do this over and over and over and over again. The biggest problem I see is lazy sales and marketing people that don't do this. And it's evidenced by their messaging and their approach as a buyer. it comes through in those initial impressions, whether or not you've done that research and whether or not you actually have targeted me for the right reasons. You understand who I am, the kind of work I might do, and how you might be able to help before you reach out. It's no different in the buyer's scenario.
Yeah.
70% of the buying process is complete before a potential prospect engages you. They've already looked at you, they've looked at your competition, they've Googled you, they've been to your LinkedIn profile, they've read case studies and research, and they've talked to other people, and they've done all these things. They've done their homework before they engage you. You need to do the same thing. And the more time you spend on qualifying people at the top of the funnel, the higher your close rates will be at the bottom. It's that simple. But most people don't think long term in that way. Most sales organizations don't incent you in that way. So there's a real disconnect and misalignment between how you're incented to be transactional, number of dials, it's a numbers game, talk time, blah, 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 blah. But really what matters is my first enterprise sales job, inside 18 months, I became the top rep in a company of 800 salespeople. I had the fewest dials and the least amount of talk time. Why? Because I spent most of my time researching companies from the top down that I wanted to research and understand like an analyst would. Who they are, what their direction is, what they're thinking about, what the C-suite is thinking about now, which is the next 3 to 5 years, not what's going on today. They thought about what's going on today 3 to 5 years ago. And now they're thinking about the next 3 to 5 years. And then how can I connect what I do to their 3 to 5 year strategic roadmap and plan? And having that conversation is a very different conversation than, let me talk to you about my product. Let me demo this, show you that.
Makes sense. I think that's something very important, right? To be able to uncover these things, right? But from my personal experience, and I'm, please feel free to correct me if you feel I'm wrong, is that people don't share everything upfront. At least your prospects won't share everything upfront, right? Unless you get on and you peel the onion layer by layer. How do you do that actually?
So that's right. I agree that people will not tell you the truth if it creates more work or conflict, or you haven't earned the right. So your job is to earn the right. You earn the right by demonstrating your thought leadership and subject matter expertise in an area where that person is looking for that. So people want to talk to thought leaders and subject matter experts, right?
Got it.
So if you're in a particular role or field and you've got a particular set of jobs that you need to do, and I understand what those jobs are and I help with those jobs, I need to show you that I really understand it as well, if not better than you, and can provide a unique point of view and a different perspective on how to do the things that really matter most. Because there's only 5 primary components of a value proposition. And at the same time, these same 5 reasons are why people buy. To make more money, to save more money, to create or maintain a competitive advantage, to change an emotion, typically from a negative one to a positive one, and my favorite, to stay out of prison. Risk, compliance, liability. So those are the 5 reasons that people buy. Your job is to try and identify as many of those that you can actually affect in a positive way and a measurable way. And that's how you build a very compelling and strong, unique value proposition. Not selling props. There's a difference. A selling prop tells me what you do. A value prop tells me what you do for me. Because no one cares about our products.
True.
They care about their problems and whether or not you can solve them. So every product in the world to me is just a byproduct of a way in which you can help somebody solve a problem. Whether it's a product or service, hardware, software, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is a business-to-business discussion. You're trying to help them propel their business and meet their objectives. And so you have to get out of your own product world and your own self-centered world and get into that world. So the way that you do that is you have to build credibility. You have to recognize this. This is my favorite kind of way of explaining it.
Okay.
When you're a seller going to a stranger of a prospect, you're just a stranger with a strange offer and going to a strange place, asking other strangers to do strange things with you.
True.
That's essentially what you are. If you recognize that and you humble yourself into that position, how you approach people is very different. I don't sell products to customers. I recruit partners who share in my vision, understand my current reality, and are willing to go on that journey with me and give me the things that I need to learn whether or not I can help them. which is not money. It's their time and it's their truth.
Correct.
And so how you behave and how you approach people is very different if you have that attitude going in. So you've got to create credibility with what you demonstrate in the form of content, whether that's in a verbal discussion through intelligent conversations, and again, reading it back from your conversational intelligence tool to learn how to improve what you say and how you say it, what your message is, etc. Because just because we all speak English doesn't mean we speak the same language. You have to understand the language of that business. So the big skills that salespeople need in order to create that credibility, to earn the right to get people to tell you the truth, are business acumen, market acumen, communication skills, and empathy.
Makes sense.
And those are the things that if every single one of your listeners and everybody who's in a sales role or a customer facing role develops over time, they can do anything. They can sell any product to any market at any time in any way.
Do you think that this forms the base of negotiation as well? These 4 specific things that you just pointed out? Yeah,
well, of course, because they're foundational to everything. Because any negotiation, again, what do you need to understand? You need to understand your market. You need to understand your business and your customer's business. You need to be able to communicate effectively, and you need to have empathy, EQ, right? Emotional quotient. That's the only thing that's going to separate us from the bots. At the end of the day, people don't want to buy from a bot. They want to buy from a human whose throat they can choke if something goes wrong.
Correct.
Because they go through the buying process. There's a stage in the buying process called resolution of concerns where people are about ready to make a decision, but the only thing holding them back at this point, they've got budget, they've got authority, they've got need, and timing is right. But the only thing holding them back is what if something goes wrong?
How is this company or this person is going to help me if something goes wrong?
Correct. That's a human to human interaction. It's not a B2B or B2C or a product or service or hardware. That is two humans being comfortable enough with each other to say, will you have my back if something goes wrong? And they won't always say this. Like I said, they won't tell you the truth. You have to uncover that. So it's your job with investigative questioning to validate your hypothesis or change it, but you do it together.
In a way where it does not feel like that you're just selling to them, but you're being probably someone who hear what they have to say, and then probably just have a communication, like a proper communication, rather than forcing the sale on them. Is that what you're trying to say?
Absolutely, which is why the negotiation is the last thing, not the first. It's not even anywhere in between, because you fully have to have a proper scope of their current situation, the problems they're facing that you can help with, what the impact is on their business, and then what they need to do differently. Because your number one competitor is not some other vendor. Your number one competitor is their lack of willingness to change. And it's all about giving them a compelling reason to make a change.
Makes sense.
And think about any salesperson knows this, right? Any experienced salesperson knows that the sales that happen the quickest are the ones where the person they're talking to has actively recognized a need and is seeking to make some sort of a change. And that has nothing to do with you.
Correct.
It has to do with them. So identifying those trigger moments. So my point is that everybody that isn't already in that situation, you need to go together down this path and try and get into that situation together, or move on, right? No is the second best answer in sales. The sooner you know they're not going to say yes, or that they don't meet your qualification criteria, then the sooner you can move on and you can add them to a nurture bucket. And when their circumstances change, you now have a relationship, you've got a brand in front of them, they've got content, they know who you are, you've built credibility, and then things move quickly.
No, I think that's really on the right path. I mean, I love the way that you've been able to sort of communicate this. I have a very small question here, right? And I think our audience would love to understand from your experience. Can you give us an example of where you thought that effective negotiation really helped you to close that particular deal or something like that? If you can, look into your past experiences and you can help us understand something from that.
Yeah, I think the most successful ones are the ones that were the most, let's say the most memorable, are the ones that moments were the most contentious, but then we were able to turn it around. And by that, I mean, the conversations became difficult.
Okay.
And there's another great book that changed my life in a lot of ways, just in dealing and negotiating with people on any level, both personally and professionally. It's called How to Have Difficult Conversations.
Okay.
And it talks about the third party perspective. And it talks about a couple of fundamental tenets. One is never assume intent, especially malicious intent. If someone takes an action that upsets you in some way, it doesn't mean they did it on purpose, and they may not very well at all be aware of it. The second is to take a third party point of view and actually become the mediator in your own negotiation, by
Makes sense.
giving both sides an opportunity to share their point of view without being in a defensive posture. And there's some great tactics that come out of that. For example, this behavior made me feel this way. I just think it's important for you to know that. I'm not asking for anything else. I just want you to know. That makes it that puts the person in a much less defensive position, because you're not accusing them of harm, and you're not assuming that intent. So that third party story creation can diffuse a lot of contentious negotiation situations. So that, plus being completely honest and always resetting the table about what both sides want out of this, and is it worth pursuing it, and being willing to be honest about that, because most of us are afraid as sellers to be honest about that, because we're afraid we might not get the answer we want to hear.
Yeah.
But that's not relational. That's transactional. What's relational is to be humble and hungry and curious and say, feedback is a gift. Rejection is no longer in my vocabulary. I'm here to learn, because I only win or I learn, right? And that's it. And we both win together. We both learn together. And I'm willing to take those bullets. And when those bullets do come, how you react to that is everything. Because you can say feedback is a gift, but if you don't behave like it is, then your credibility is shot, whether you know it or not. So for me, any negotiation that looked like it was going sideways and we were able to recover it through difficult conversations have been, for me, the most rewarding.
Makes sense. And a lot of times, Sean, it does not go as per plan, right? We all want negotiations to end up in a win-win situation, right? But a lot of time you would find people just, let's say the other prospect, saying no to what you have to offer. And you are on a call with them, right? A face-to-face video call, a video call, or let's say a face-to-face call. You don't have enough time to sort of go back, reiterate everything on your mind, and then start from scratch. How do you handle those situations? Not every time people will agree to what you offer on the negotiating side.
Well, you have to be buoyant, as Dan Pink says in his book To Sell is Human, which is another great one, which means you have to be mindful and open and willing to accept and receive the information coming from the client, and not be so worried about what you're going to say or what you want to say or what you want to get across. And this is where the empathy muscle is so important. Being mindful in the moment, taking time to pause and listen and try and process, and use a mirroring technique, for example. Just paraphrasing back what you think you heard to get them to say yeah, or them to say no, you don't understand me, is a fantastic way to get where you want to go faster. So what I think I heard from you is this, right? Is that accurate? Is that true? So mirroring is a fantastic technique for any negotiation, but it's also just a really good part of any general social interaction. If you're truly trying to understand someone else's point of view, mirroring is a fantastic way to demonstrate that.
But what if they say no, Sean? What would you do after that? Is that the end of the conversation?
I would ask them to tell me why, right? Because I genuinely want to know. It's a great story about Walt Disney. He was already a famous filmmaker and cartoonist and very wealthy and well-known in the Hollywood circles when he decided he wanted to open a theme park. Then he went to I think he went on 70 plus pitch meetings to banks for money. And got 79 no's before he got a yes. And at the end of every meeting, he said, I appreciate your time. I'm not asking you to look at this again, but if I came back tomorrow, what would make you say yes? And he took that information and he learned from that to constantly iterate his pitch and get to a place to where somebody finally did say yes. And the rest is history. And I take the same attitude, right?
Hmm.
It's a learning experience. All these things are learning experiences. Be a learn-it-all, not a know-it-all, and try and understand why you lost. Okay, every closed loss deal should be analyzed, and if you don't have all the information, then you didn't do your job. And there's so many different competing factors and reasons behind the scenes why people
Hmm.
make the decisions they make and behave the way they behave, and you can't control all those things.
Yeah, yeah.
But what you can do is try and get insights into all of them by asking the right questions and early up in the sales process. Who else is involved in this process?
Yeah,
What role do they play?
yeah.
Who else should we having conversations with? What kind of buyer type are they? Right? Because there's essentially three buyer types and a characteristic on top of it, which is your user buyer, your economic buyer, and your technical buyer. The technical buyer is the person that can't say yes, but they can say no because their
Hmm.
job is to assess working with you for risk. They don't want to be sold to. They just want facts and specs and stories and information that answers their questions.
Yeah.
So you have to be prepared for them. The economic buyer obviously is the one who's looking at the spreadsheet and wants to know what the concrete ROI is on doing business together. That's why the value metrics are so important. So you have to quantify your value to them. And then the user buyer obviously is the one who's using your product or service. And they will have a whole host of different reasons, right? Why they want to do business with you. Across those 5 components that I talked about: making money, saving money, creating a competitive advantage, changing their emotions, because the user buyer is on the front line. They are very emotional about it. So you have to address the emotions as well. So you have to map out your account, understand the buyer types, and have different messaging and a different approach for each one of them to be able to understand what their problem is, the impact, and what the resulting need might be, and how their life might be different if they worked with you. I'm a big fan of the before and after story. Right?
Like narrating them what happens before it and what happens after they use your product.
That's right. That's right. And telling before and after stories. It's like I tell anybody who wants to know what product market fit is. I said it's a cohort of early customers with before and after stories that are willing to tell the world much better off they are with you than without you. And that continues forward from that point on. Your growth trajectory comes from continuing and repeating and rinsing and repeating that process over and over and over again.
Makes sense. But when you're doing this negotiation, right, with anyone, let's say the prospect, right, there might be a point where it is definitely not a win-win for both of us. How do you know as a sales representative that you should now walk away?
Well, you have to have really tight qualification criteria before you even reach out to anybody. If you don't have a very clear picture of what a really good fit customer is, then you're wasting a ton of time. And we see that every time you get these deals that go for 3, 6, 9, 10, 12 months, and you think they're at the bottom of the funnel and they're ready to do business, and all of a sudden they go dark and you don't know why. Well, that's why, because you didn't qualify them properly at the beginning.
But let's say if there is a pricing discussion happening, right? Just to have you in a very specific scenario. Let's say the pricing discussion is happening and they're not agreeing to the pricing that we have to offer for, right? And there is always a certain level at which you can negotiate. What do you suggest? When do you know that you should walk away now if things are not working out? And should you do that?
Again, if you don't think it's going to meet the strategic needs of your business and theirs, then it's not a fit. It's not going to end well.
Very curious question here, right? Being a salesperson myself, is it a better idea to get them on board even with the lower pricing, and then over the period in time you get that account with a higher pricing going forward?
That depends. I mean, that depends on what stage of your business you're in, what your strategic needs are, what that future looks like. Sure, I mean, you can commoditize your product or service in the short term for long-term gain if that's a part of your overall strategy and you see a reason to do that. But that all goes back to establishing that initial criteria. What are you willing to give?
Makes sense.
And it's an easy thing to say, but it's an important thing to say. If people are beating you up on price, you haven't shown them enough value, and that's your responsibility, not theirs.
True, very true. One last question that I would have regarding this is that Is there a specific way to prepare for negotiation calls? Like, every salesperson generally understand when is the negotiation call going to happen, right? In the whole sales cycle, they would understand that the next call is going to be a negotiation call, right? They would have a feel about this. Is there a way to prepare for that beforehand before you go into that conversation? Any kind of template, anything that you used in your real life that you can, probably tell our audiences?
Well, not a negotiation template per se,
Mhm.
but you should have a really good understanding of what both parties want to get out of the interaction. Number one.
Okay.
Number two, you should never feel forced to answer questions in that call that you're not prepared to
Okay.
answer. So you need to
Okay.
it needs to be okay to go, this is really good information. I need to go back and think about it.
Okay.
Number three is you should have some sort of a scenario. Think of it like chess. You're running through all these different moves. So you have to have a set of scenarios documented or a picture or painted in your head or whatever it is
Mhm.
about all the different ways this might play out.
Okay. Got it.
But you have to, again, be patient with that. But to me, it's about setting that table. Look, we both want to get something out of this. Here's our pricing model, right? And this is why it is what it is, and this is how that works. And there's nothing wrong with being transparent.
True.
I have no problem at that stage sharing with my clients that I have to run a business and that I have certain margin requirements in order for me to stay in business. And it's in their best interest if they want to do business with me, for me to be in business long term too.
Mhm.
And there's nothing wrong with that conversation.
Makes
So
sense.
that, again, creates the empathy on both sides. They understand where you're coming from and what you're doing, and you understand what they're doing.
Makes sense. I think I'm totally on board with whatever you have to share around the negotiation and this entire skilling part. These were all the questions I had for you, Sean, today. Really thank you for coming up on our podcast and helping our audience learn more about negotiation skills.
It's my pleasure. At the end of the day, it's just a bunch of humans trying to help each other out.
Sure. And thank you again. It was terrific to have you. If they want to reach out to you, what is the best way to reach out to you?
So they can go to LinkedIn and connect with me there, reference the podcast. That's great. They can follow me on Twitter or Instagram at Sean Sheppard. They can go to U.plus, the letter U.plus to learn more about my business. If they want to book meetings, I've got a calendar there. We can happy to have conversations.
Great. Thanks. Thanks, Sean. Thanks again for being on the podcast. This is really helpful. Thank you.
My pleasure, Ashish. Thank you.